I've been uploading. It's been a little bit of a struggle to upload the files, but I'm pushing away with that. It's like for some reason the connection's been a bit weak, so I'm just gonna move back. Let's just see. You can see the whole of me there, right? More or less. Yeah. Okay. So we're just going to come onto our feet, and I'll turn sideways, and we're going to do work for quite a bit from the sequence that's from the 500-hour hip work. So the first thing is you put your hands to your hips and you lean into your right leg and you just let your left leg swing. So the idea is to let the left leg swing as though it's falling out of the hip socket. So it's swinging backwards and forwards the left leg, okay? And the idea is to get a sense of, create a little bit of space in the hip joint by letting the weight of the leg draw down. So you try and let the left leg be quite, as it were, floppy. We do this for a while. It's like a balance issue. Okay, then we'll switch sides to the right leg. So you're letting the leg swing quite simply backwards and forwards, keeping the body more or less upright. Trying to keep your balance. There's also a way of warming up the hip joint. Oops. And then coming back to stillness. We're now going to do like a leg raise and then swing back. So you're lifting the right leg, the left leg, sorry, higher and swing back. So we're lifting the left leg up, leg raise, swing back. So bringing the knee up towards the chest. And release. And then the same on the right leg. So you're balancing onto the left, drawing the right knee up, and then swinging back. I always think of these particular poses having nothing whatsoever to do with yoga, but they're like a kind of pre-yoga, if you like, pre-yoga movement. Checking, noticing any difference with the balance between the two sides, strength. So with the second movement, we're lifting the knee towards the chest, leg raise, and then swinging back. Okay, coming into standing again. So I'm just going to change my orientation. So what we're doing now is we're balancing on the right leg and doing circles. So these are circles which can be smaller or bigger. We'll go in one direction. So just remembering which direction you're going in. And then changing sides. So going, as it were, doing the same on the other side. So it can be small or big circles. It can be fast or slow. Checking with your balance. And releasing, and then coming back to the first side. So we're going to go the opposite direction. So see if you can remember which way you went, and then doing the opposite. Again, small or big, can be quite random. Exploring the movement. Feeling around the hip joint. And releasing down, doing the same movement on the opposite side, so we're changing the direction, hopefully. This is the hip mobilizer. And that is to having the leg, as it were, hanging out of the hip joint. And releasing down. Okay, so we'll come back towards our mat. I'd like, if you can, have a couple of piles of bricks. So I've got 2 bricks on each side. That's it. Or, you know, you could use if you've got these like cork or wooden bricks, and maybe have some padding. This time, we did this the first day, but some padding underneath the back knee. So I'm just going to fold a blanket underneath the back knee. And so we'll come, so the knees are resting onto the support there. Now I want us to swing forwards. Hands come onto the bricks. Come up onto the fingertips even. So we're going to do this dynamically. So we did this on I think it was on the first day. So as you exhale, you swing back. Inhale, swing forwards. It could also be done where you're a bit higher up on chairs, 2 chairs. Swing back with the exhale. Inhale, swing forwards. The gaze can lift on the inhale. Exhale. Looking down, we can have the back toes turned under. And feeling our way into the pelvis, to the groins. So we're going to be feeling a bit sore, I would imagine, the hips after the last 2 days. So just gently moving into this sequence. We'll do 8 or 10 movements. And then from there, come back to all 4, switch sides. Inhaling forwards, exhaling back. The gaze is going forwards and out towards the horizon on the inhale, and on the exhale back. So do remember you can tuck the back toes under. And then swinging back to all fours. And then step your first foot forwards. I'm just going to change the angle here of the camera. So with this next pose, we're going to come into what's called dragon pose. So we actually come all the way up and just hold this statically and allow the weight to descend through the pelvis. So it's intense, it's really intense on the hip flexor. Allowing your weight to descend. Another way of practicing is I quite like to cross the forearms over the front thighs. It's a little bit more restful. So I'm allowing myself to lean forwards and down, relaxing the hands. So it's just very intense on the hip flexor, maybe the groin, more of a static hold. Again, tuning in with those sensations, allowing sensations to draw you in, pleasant, unpleasant, certainly intense, imagine. If it gets too much, another way of practicing the dragon is where you actually rest down. So it's moving more towards the gecko. So you bring your palms down onto the support or even onto the floor. And from there, we swing back, all fours, bring the other foot forwards. We'll come all the way up into the dragon pose. So the crown is lifting towards the sky. We're deciding how much weight goes into the back thigh. If you lift the pelvis higher, it'll be less intense. As you drop the pelvis down, it intensifies that stretchy feeling across the groins. So you can take more weight back into the back knee. Maybe taking this second option, which is crossing the forearms, so we're leaning forwards more, moving in. The gaze then drops. And then coming down either onto the hands, onto the bricks or to the floor for a slightly more supported version. Moving more towards gecko. Just so we're aware of this gecko pose, which we'll just come into it just briefly on this side. So you take your forward foot out, and then you lowering yourself down, possibly onto support. So you lower the forearms down. So it's more intense. Well, it's a different kind of stretch, to be quite honest. Different kind of stretch. It's working maybe more into the groin. Okay, just so we're aware of that, and then come back From there, carefully releasing out and back into child's pose. Resting into child's pose, resting the forehead down. Releasing, completely surrendering. Okay, then from there, sitting up. And we're going to come into, so we've done this every day. Take the legs wide into dragonfly, it's called. So this is a pose where it's helpful to have some support in front of you, probably to rest the head down. So we're going to come into a simple forward fold here. Allowing the body to rest down. So again, a symmetric pose. So we'll stay a few minutes in this pose. As I've been saying, a little bit of activity in the feet suits me to keep them in the vertical. Some people just like to let the legs go completely. And what you do when you do let the legs go, you'll notice that they've got a tendency to either roll in or roll out. So we're naturally, we have a natural tendency to inward or outward rotation in the hip joint. So it's worth being aware of that. You might even notice there's quite a big difference between your right and left side. You may even have a more externally rotated one side and more inward rotated on the other. And you'll see that in the feet. If the feet fall in, that's an inward rotation tendency. And if the feet roll out, that's an outward rotation tendency. And those of us with an outwardly rotated hip will find forward folds much, much easier. And those with less of that external outward rotation will struggle more with forward folds. Just coming into the stillness of dragonfly for a few moments. Focusing in on the specific sensations that the pose is offering. And coming into a more global appreciation of the whole body. From the feet to the hands to the head. Coming into a sense of the emotional tone of the heart-mind this morning. And aware of this process of change through your body, around you. Our body is a process, as it were, life living through us. And then anchoring into the breath. Inhale, exhale, aware of more subtle movement of the breath. So generally, in this practice, I'm recommending just letting the body breathe. So we're not extending or lengthening or changing the breath in any way. But certainly with the stiller poses, an opportunity to see what the breath is doing, more finely tuned in to what's happening now. On your next in-breath, picking yourself up, just put these bricks out of the way, and we're going to come round into all fours and into dog pose, Adho Mukha Svanasana. So opening the backs of the legs now, lengthening through. Lengthening through the shoulders, the sides of the waist. Inhale, coming into all fours. Exhale, dropping back just briefly into child's pose, keeping the arms active and long forward. So we're going to come into a slightly dynamic movement now, inhaling into, that's probably an understatement. That's one of those British understatements. Coming back up into dog pose. And this is like a heating, toning. So I want you to reach back with, say, the right leg. It's up to you which leg you do first. You reach back and you're opening, as it were, the front of the leg. And as, on an inhale, we swing forwards and we just hover with the leg bent, and then exhale back. Inhale or exhale, it's up to you. I'll let you work it out. It might make more sense to exhale down and then inhale back. So it's, yeah, I mean, it works the upper body, but it's also going to work the core of the body. Inhale. So just your inhale back. Exhale, we're bringing the shin towards the floor, but not dropping down. 4 or 5 times. And then on the next movement forwards, you come all the way down into the swan pose, which we've already done. So I'd like you to come rest down there. Come into the really passive, releasing swan, where we also rest the head down, spread the elbows, open the upper back. Again, connecting with the breath. And it's working in this hip, external rotation of the hip. So you feel this in the buttock for sure, maybe in the groin. It's a useful pose to really include if you're working the hips. It's an obvious go-to pose with the precaution around the knee. Okay. Connecting with the sensations in this pose. Just resting into the experience of being there, being still in the pose, surrendering to the pose, surrendering to gravity, aware of the whole body, the breath. Aware of the mood or the moods that maybe you've observed over the last couple of days more acutely. Any particular threads bubbling up. And then we're going to ground the palms somewhere in position underneath your shoulders. Carefully lift up and open the back of the leg that you've just had bent underneath you. Coming back up into the dog push. We'll do the same sequence, but on the other side. So we're reaching back on the inhale, I think works better. And then on the exhale, you're lowering yourself down. Inhale back. Again, moving with the breath, inhale back. Exhale, hovering just over the floor. So do 4 or 5 of those when you're ready. Coming into the sleeping swan. Resting all the way down. Remembering to spread the elbows so we can let the upper back, neck, shoulders open up. Seeing if it's possible to completely let go in this pose. Connecting with your breath. Connecting with this process of surrendering to the floor. And just seeing if you can release more around the neck, the shoulders, the hip, all the way down the straight leg. It's a sense of like globally releasing the whole body. And then from there, again, re-grounding the palms coming up to all fours, open the back of the folded leg. And I'd like to just move back into sitting. So I suggest we're going to come back into a dynamic lunge. So part of the idea with the 500-hour work is there's a certain amount of repetition to come back into an area again and again to really work it thoroughly. So this is a variation of the lunge. I'm going to put padding under the knees. Let's see, let's change the angle a little bit. So I'd like us to step forwards. I'll bring this foot forwards. So my left leg is forward, left hand on the left knee, back toes tucked under, and my right hand is down by my side. So as I inhale, I reach up and look up. I don't know how much you can see the head there. I'm just gonna change the position. I need a fisheye lens. Inhale, we reach up. Exhale, coming down, and then repeating that 5 or 6 times. Moving smoothly through the movement with the breath. You can adjust the length of the base. Shorter base is gentler on the body. Longer base is going to be more demanding. As we come into the up position, the inhale, you can gently pull the top shoulder back, emphasizing the opening of the front of the body, the front of the pelvis. Hip flexor. And we could do 8 or 10 repetitions here. And then when you're ready, coming down, coming to all fours, stepping the other leg forwards, coming up, setting up. The other detail is that the feet can be on, as it were, 2 tram lines. So you don't need to be the foot and the knee in line. I suggest you go, your feet are at least as wide as your hips, if not a bit wider. And then as we inhale, coming up, as it were, with the top arm, and moving the pelvis forwards and down. Observing differences between the 2 sides. Smooth movement with the pelvis, with the arm coordinating. The pelvis, legs, upper body, arm, with the breath. Feeling that flow of the movement. As we next exhale, we release down into all fours. Move back briefly into the dog pose to open out the backs of the legs. Lengthen through the upper back, neck long. And coming back down to sitting. So I'm just going to orientate myself towards you And so we're going to do, we've already visited this pose. So yeah, inevitably there's a certain amount of repetition with hip work. So it's called square pose. Maybe I'll just show, it's actually easier to show. So the idea is the feet and the knees come into line with each other, square to the sitting bones. Really strong hip rotation. So we're going to reach up, and from there, fold forwards. Wow. At some point, you want to bring the hands to the floor. You can wriggle. You know, you're going to meet the restriction around the groins, the hips, and the lower back. If you don't want to have the head floating in space, then bring some bricks or some cushions into place. Just being aware of which of your shins is forwards. So we're looking to lean into the pose, leaning forward. So we're bringing this action into the head of the femur. Just like, feel like the dog gnawing on the buttock, one on each buttock. Can be a very strong experience, I suppose. So obviously, you can always back off, find a more, it could be more like a Chihuahua rather than an Alsatian or something. So just finding the right level of intensity. So it's more kind of, I mean, I think this how much intensity you go for is going to really vary with everybody. Yeah, some folks have a lot of sensitivity to pain. Other people don't. Some people like more intense feeling of pain in the body, and others not. I think if the pain is feeling like risky, so that again, you have to work that out for yourself, then that's like you're going too far. So if it feels like it's damaging in any way, that's too much. But obviously, with yoga, with exercise in general, there's an element of stressing the body. So in a weird kind of way, you're challenging the body to develop, to grow, to change. But it's making sure that stress is not detrimental stress, like a kind of creative stress. This pose can also feel a bit uncomfortable around the ankles, so it may be appropriate to have some more padding underneath the ankles. Okay, from there, carefully coming up. And we'll do this movement where we lean back so that as it were, the buttocks come down onto the hands to a certain extent. Reach out with the legs. Or reach up, should I say, with the legs. And then you can play with taking one leg closer to the floor and back up. The other leg to engage the leg, back up. engaging the thighs around the hip joint, muscularly. You can also take the legs wide. And hopefully we'll remember which side we did. We're going to come back up again. So it's the other shin forwards. Trying to line up the shins and the feet sort of square. And then from there reaching up, the sense of bringing your weight into the front edge of the sitting bones. So working your way in, maybe wriggling to some extent, so we're comfortable in the ankles as much as we can be. And then feeling the challenge around the pelvis. Connecting with your breath. So we can release the body with the exhales. Being aware of your body globally, the whole body, being aware of the space around you. So, most of us talked about this issue of practicing in our place, home place. So it's worth kind of like, to use that expression, clocking that it is possible, yeah, to be in a different way in our, even our bedroom. Some ways it's an issue of state of mind or attitude. Obviously, external conditions really make a big difference in terms of our practice. So it's great to go away somewhere, quiet, on retreat, etc. But it's also really helpful to work out how to practice at home. So hopefully this approach will help with that. Checking that you're releasing around the shoulders and the neck as much as is possible. Okay, then carefully from there, coming up. If you've got any equipment, just moving it to one side, releasing out the legs, just lengthen them along the floor now. And come round into all fours, down and then down, just briefly into child's pose. So we're going to do more moving work now. So coming into all fours, and this will be really familiar actually. In fact, we've sort of done a version of it already today. So as you exhale, I want you to draw one of your knees in towards you. And as you inhale, reach back. So we'll just work with the leg to begin with on the same side. Exhale, curling in, bringing the knee towards the face, and then with the inhale, swinging that leg back, taking the gaze forwards. Sometimes called tiger stretch. We'll do 4 or 5 on each side. When you're ready, switching sides. So inhaling the back leg back. Exhale. Inhaling the back leg back. And releasing down briefly into child's pose. You can either rest the forehead down, or if you prefer, it's quite good to rest back into sitting position. As it were, keeping the energy a bit more up. Up to you. Breathing there. Feeling that's gently warming the thighs, hip flexor. Some toning through the abdominal area when we do that movement. Coming back into all fours, so we're going to do a more intensified version of that. Hands underneath the shoulders. Okay, so this, again, we'll do it 4 or 5 times on each side. So as you exhale, you draw, you like cup your opposite shin. And then as you inhale, you reach forwards with the arm and back with the leg, and then back in. Gently cupping the shin, inhale, reaching out, exhale, cupping in. It may help to play with the position of the supporting arm and hand. Okay, next time we inhale, we'll hold the position for 5 breaths. See if you can lift the back leg, lift the front arm. Gaze can go slightly down and forwards. Breath is probably going to be shorter here. And release. Take a pause between cycles. Breathe. Letting go of any tension around the shoulders, the neck. So what's quite interesting with this work is these more dynamic toning movements, I would say, can create a sense of hardness or solidity in the body. I mean, it's more like a feeling, I would say. Okay, it's strengthening the muscles, whereas the more yin sort of restorative practice creates a sense of softness and liquidity in the body, which is curious, yeah? So when we're keeping still, we're creating that softness. When we're moving, we're creating a certain amount tone, you could say, okay, or heart or solidity. Okay, coming into all fours. And so we're doing the opposite side now. So we draw the shin in, cupping, and inhale, reaching out. Noticing the difference between your two sides. Inhale, reaching back. Next time we inhale, going to reach back with the leg, reach forward with the foot, so we can lift away from the floor. Breathing now. Probably the breath is going to be shorter, faster. When you're ready, coming down. And rest back now, again into child's pose or sitting back. So I'm going to introduce some work now, which is done on the belly. Actually, if the floor feels a bit hard, I quite like to put a little bit of extra padding underneath the hip area, like the pelvic area. So I'm just putting a blanket there. In some ways, this is more work for like the lower back area, but it feels very much like the pelvis and the thighs are involved with these actions that we're going to do, and it helps to bring a sense of solidity and stability into that area. So we're going to lie down onto our belly. The forehead can rest on the hands. And I want you to pick up each of your legs and lengthen the legs back. So we're definitely opening the hip, the front of the hip flexor. So this is a variation of Shalabhasana. So it's a 4-part movement. So as we inhale, we lift, say, the left leg. Exhale, bend the left leg. Inhale, lift and straighten back. And exhale down. So I'll just show that on the other side. Inhale, right leg. Exhale, bend the right leg. Inhale, extend the right leg. And lift and exhale down. And we alternate sides. Inhale, lift. With the straight leg, exhale, bend. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale down. And with the opposite leg, you can gently press against the floor to give you a little bit more sense of lift. This is a Vinyasa movement, actually sort of designed to work the knee joint and around the sacrum. So it's 4 parts, alternating. Inhale, lift. Exhale, bend. Inhale, lift. Exhale, down. So the upper body's fairly quiet. You can do 8 or 10 cycles on each side. moving with the breath, flowing with the breath. Folding on the exhale, inhale, lengthening, exhale down. Okay, when you're ready, coming into stillness, feeling the work in the thigh, front of the hip. And then we're going to place the forehead now down on the floor. Actually, you can also place the chin. Slightly odd position for the neck, however. And then we place the hands, just the palm facing up underneath the hip bone. And then what we're going to do is we're going to lift one leg, lift it up in what's called scorpion pose. So this again is working like into the hip area, as it were, from the lower back. You might not get that much height. Okay, and release down. It doesn't really matter. It's more you're looking to get the sensation of lifting in the back leg. So the hand underneath the hip will help. Try on the other side. Noticing any difference between the two sides. Also, this has been really helpful for like sacroiliac, lumbar, sacral area for my body, and releasing down in terms of creating a bit more strength in that area, stability. So we'll come back to the first side, still with the hands underneath the hip bones, so the fingertips rest on the upper thigh, and then back to the first side. Lifting and holding. So you could do this dynamically where you alternate, but we're lifting and holding. Try to keep the pelvis more or less level. And releasing. When you're ready, come back to your second side and lift. And releasing down. Take a pause. And then we're going to take the hands out now. Place the palms down towards the floor. Check that your neck is releasing. And we'll try the same just once on each side, but without the hands there. Okay, so you can press down with one foot, but lift up with the other. Lifting into what's called scorpion pose. Breathing now. Holding the position, not holding the breath. So this is really like toning work, strengthening work, engaging the muscles, and releasing down. And take a pause. And try on the opposite side. So the palms are down. And we lift. Pelvis more or less level. You can let your pelvis tip a little bit. Give a bit more of a sense of lift. Use the down leg, a gentle pressure towards the floor to help with the lift. And release. Wow. And from there, all fours. From all fours, coming round onto the back. Into semi-supine. And from semi-supine, so we've done this also already, stirrup pose, but this time I'd like us to see if we can get hold of the big toes with the first two fingers and thumb. Let's see if that doesn't happen. You can just get hold of the outer shins. This is not a pose, well, the variation we're gonna do is quite challenging actually. So we'll see how far it comes. So as you inhale, we're gonna extend one leg out to one side and straight. Okay, so I'm just gonna try one leg and then come back to center. See if you can straighten out the other leg. Back to center. Well, back to center, it's like you're letting the knees drop to the side. Back to the first side, extending out. Exhale back, and then the other side. Okay, and then for sure, yeah, we're going to see if we can take both legs out towards straightening. Well, for me, this is really not easy, to be quite frank. The legs are not going to come to straight right now. But the idea is to keep the sacrum down. So there's a gentle pushing of the pelvis, sacrum flat to the floor, to keeping that area stable. And then gently lengthening from the inner groins to the inner feet. So it may start to open up here gradually. Just being aware of the global experience of this body, the body in this pose. And releasing back. Wow, bringing the feet down slowly to the floor, semi-supine. Breathing now. And so we did this yesterday. So we take the feet wider than the mat. Well, at least that's the way I like to do it. So I've got the feet really wide, the arms are wide, and then we do the scissor action. So we're rolling the pelvis to one side, let the legs fall, inhale back to center. The head can stay neutral to begin with, and then the legs to the other side on the exhale. Inhale to center. Exhale. And then if you want to introduce also the head, so the head does the opposite to what the legs and the pelvis are doing. So I'd say more than anything, this is like a softening, mobilizing movement. And it's said to help to bring one of the issues in terms of our moving and efficient movement is we're trying to bring the axial skeleton, which is the spine, pelvis, spine, sacrum, and the vertebra, into a harmonic relationship with the appendicular skeleton, which is the legs and arms, basically. So one of the emphases in our yoga practice can be bringing back a sense of harmonious relationship between the legs and arms and the spine. So you're bringing the actual skeleton into a harmonious relationship with the appendicular and vice versa. It sounds good, but you know, I think with judicious practice, it could definitely happen. Certainly if we're practicing mindfulness in the body work. Okay, coming back into stillness. Feet more in line with the hips, semi-supine, rolling to one side. So this is going to be the penultimate pose. I have to confess, I haven't done this for like ages. So I was probably doing a variation of it during the first lockdown, but it's called frog. I like to have quite a bit of padding because the knees, the inner knees, you'll see are going to go down. I'll just show, it's a slightly fiddly pose to get into. So we sit with the knees wide, and you might want to have some support in front of you. And then the idea is you bring your weight down into the inner groins. And feet stay together. You see that? Yeah, there's can be quite a lot of leeway with how much your weight comes forwards and down and into which part of the groin. So the more, it seems to me, the more you come forward, the more the feet lift, the milder it is. Whereas if you keep your weight, as it were, back into the groins, it's more intense. If we can, we rest the head down. But the idea is it's an ending pose, so it's fairly, we're not going for like full intensity necessarily. Yeah, so the feet can lift, mine just, it's like inevitable really, they're gonna lift. And I'm propping my lower ribs up on some bricks, but trying to rest the head down or the chin. So we're getting gravity to work through front of the pelvis. So yeah, obviously a bolster would be, I think, quite handy underneath the front of the body. And from here, I'm sure we could spend longer there, but let's just gently come up. So carefully coming out, you want to bring those legs back in. Okay, and then what I'd like you to do is to have enough bricks available to have a stack of 4, up to 4. We're going to do one inversion, a simple inversion, which we've already done. Okay, you could do this, it would be logical to do this legs up the wall, wide legs up the wall, but I'm not going to suggest we do that because it's a bit fiddly. I can see in some people's rooms there just isn't necessarily the wall space. So I'm coming into the bridge, supported bridge, but then taking it up into the leg raise. It's not really a hip pose in any, but as I was describing yesterday, the hips, I think they get a certain sense of relief of not having the weight bearing down on the top of the leg. Now it's the other way around. Breathing now. So the sense of the neck long, chest slightly active and opening. Just while we're here, so there was, in terms of strengthening the hip flexor area, there is a nice variation you can do here. So I'll invite some of you to do that, where you keep the leg straight and you lower it down towards the floor on the exhale. And then inhale back up. Yeah. So just be really sensitive to what's happening into your lower back, because it's quite strong, right? Okay, so you can alternate 4 or 5 times on each side. Try to project through the legs as much as possible. The legs, say, as it were, strong, like kind of levers, so the work goes into the pelvis. Just to help to warm and strengthen hip flexor area, create more stability. So maybe taking that a few times, coming back into stillness. Checking that we're releasing around the neck and the base of the neck, so where the neck meets the shoulders. Reconnecting with the breath, and so it's the whole body, so it's your mood. So with this sequence, we've sort of, as it were, peered somewhat into our approach in the 500-hour sort of therapeutic yoga. I added a few extra things which make it a bit too strong, to be quite honest, for a really, you know, if somebody's really suffering in the pelvis, where you take some of the stuff out. But as you can see, what we're doing is a mixture of mobilizing, moving and mobilizing gently, and then we're doing moving and strengthening, which is more the Vinyasa work. And then we're also doing the long hold stretches. So it's like 3 approaches combining together. So it's like the long hold, the connective tissue work, the mobilizing, and then the strengthening. Okay, so we're going to bring one foot down, then the other foot, and we're going to move into Shavasana. So today I'll lead us a longer session, if that's okay. So we'll go up to the hour, and I'll read a poem again. So set yourselves up to be really not cold, okay? Because it's absolutely, it's like a freezer over here. So some support for your Knees, I would suggest. And some support for the back of the head. So take your time to set yourself up. And when we lie down into Shavasana, we're looking to like spread ourselves out, contained in a contained way, but lengthen the lower spine. So you might want to move your pelvis slightly towards the feet. Open the mid-back area. So one way of doing that is to like embrace yourself. And like it's almost like you're separating the shoulder blades. So the space between the shoulder blades, the rhomboids, can move down to the floor. And the rhomboids. And then the neck, by moving the head away from you, chin slightly tucked down, very slightly, will help lengthen the spine. Sense of your limbs being heavy. Letting the legs fall out naturally, finding their inner or outer rotation. Most people, you'll see that the legs roll out here, externally rotate slightly. Palms and thumbs, soft fingers. Being aware that we've definitely worked the body over the last 3 days. It's been an emphasis on the pelvis. But okay, in the last workshop, we were emphasizing more the upper back and the shoulders. Being aware of your body in space, in its location. Being aware that you're in your space. Being aware of the building around you, the landscape around you. Checking in with a sense of your mood and a sense of stillness or calmness or even contentment that arises in this phase of the practice. At the same time, being aware of restlessness or anxieties or irritations can also bubble up. Like a sense of feeling the floor underneath you. And surrendering our body weight to the floor. So I'd like to read you a poem from, this is one of my favorites, from Mary Oliver, which I'm sure you've heard. So she died relatively recently, called Wild Geese. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert, repenting. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert, repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things. Thank you. That was great. So hopefully that came across okay. And we'll see each other this evening. So just Sadat is going to do the afternoon session from his place this afternoon. And just this evening, what I'd like to do is to do a really simple ritual, like a puja, what's called a threefold puja, which yeah, we'll just do that. But if you're into that idea of like making an offering to a shrine or something, you've got a shrine set up in your space, then it doesn't have to be of a Buddha, but like you've got a sacred space, then you could set yourself up to do it there and make an offering. You could maybe go out, if you're going out today, just look for something that you'd like to offer to your aspirations, okay, to your practice, we'll say, over the next couple of months, see what happens. So see you this evening. So be 7 o'clock your time, 8 o'clock my time. Yeah. Bye-bye.